The air was thick with the smell of burning incense, a scent that seemed to cling to the walls and seep into the very fabric of the room. It was a smell that carried with it a sense of foreboding, a prelude to the events that were about to unfold. Hwa-rim, her wrinkled face etched with lines of worry and wisdom, chanted softly. Her voice, though quiet, carried a weight of centuries-old knowledge and the power of countless rituals performed. Each word she uttered seemed to vibrate in the air, adding to the room's heavy atmosphere. Her student, the eager Bong-gil, crushed herbs with a steady thump. His hands moved with practiced precision, but his eyes betrayed a hint of nervousness. He knew the importance of their task and the stakes involved. The herbs, a mix of ancient remedies, were meant to protect and heal, but their true power lay in the hands of the shaman. They were getting ready for a fight. Not a fight with fists, but a fight against a hidden enemy. This enemy was not of flesh and blood but of spirit and shadow, an entity that thrived on fear and despair. The preparations were meticulous, each step a crucial part of the ritual that would hopefully banish the darkness, an enemy that haunted the very soul. It was a presence that could not be seen but was felt deeply, a shadow that lurked in the corners of the mind. The fear it instilled was palpable, a cold dread that wrapped around the heart and squeezed. Their journey started with a desperate call for help. The voice on the other end of the line was filled with panic and urgency, a plea that could not be ignored. It was a call that set them on a path fraught with danger and uncertainty, but also with the hope of bringing light to the darkness. A rich family, the Ons, needed them. Their wealth and status could not protect them from the unseen forces that had invaded their home. Despite their luxurious surroundings, they were as vulnerable as anyone else when faced with the supernatural. Their new baby boy, their only heir, was sick with a mysterious illness. The child's cries were weak, his tiny body frail. The parents, usually composed and confident, were now shadows of their former selves, consumed by worry and helplessness. Doctors didn't know what to do. Traditional medicine didn't work. People started whispering, whispers of a curse. The whispers grew louder, spreading like wildfire through the community. Fear and superstition took hold, and the once rational minds began to entertain the possibility of the supernatural. Hwa-rim, a famous shaman and ghost fighter, was their last hope. Her reputation preceded her, known far and wide for her ability to combat the unseen. She had faced many spirits and entities in her time, but this case felt different, more personal. She agreed to help, her heart heavy with a feeling of danger. She knew the risks involved, the toll it could take on her and her young apprentice, but she also knew that turning away was not an option. The weight of responsibility pressed down on her, but she stood firm, ready to face whatever lay ahead. The trip to the On's big house was eerily quiet. The usual sounds of the countryside were absent, replaced by an unsettling silence. It was as if the world itself was holding its breath, waiting for the inevitable confrontation. Even the birds seemed to stay away. The forest, usually alive with the sounds of nature, was now a silent witness to the unfolding drama. The absence of life added to the sense of isolation and impending doom. The air felt strange, like something was hidden there. It was a feeling that gnawed at the edges of their consciousness, a sense that they were being watched by unseen eyes. The atmosphere was thick with tension, every step forward a challenge to their resolve. Bong-gil, though young and not very experienced, could feel it too. His senses were heightened, every sound and shadow magnified in his mind. He looked to his teacher for reassurance, but even she seemed more solemn than usual. A creeping fear sent shivers down his spine. It was a primal fear, one that spoke to the deepest parts of his being. He tried to steady his breathing, to focus on the task at hand, but the fear was relentless. He held tight to his teacher's protective amulet, saying a silent prayer. The amulet was a symbol of protection, a small comfort in the face of the unknown. His whispered words were a plea for strength and courage, a hope that they would emerge victorious. They were walking into a very dark place, a place where the line between the living and the dead blurred, where the whispers of despair could easily become screams. But they walked forward, driven by a sense of duty and the hope of bringing light to the darkness. The On house stood on a hill looking down at the town. Once a symbol of success, it now seemed sad and heavy. The family greeted them with a mix of hope and despair. Their faces were tired and worried, their eyes red from crying and no sleep. The baby, wrapped in silk, was strangely still. His skin, once a healthy color, was now pale gray. His breathing was shallow, with little cries of pain. Hwa-rim checked the baby, her touch soft but firm. A cold shiver went up her arm. This wasn't a normal sickness. The baby's father, Mr. An, a strong man broken by his son's illness, told their story. His voice shook as he talked about the baby's sudden decline. He talked about the bad dreams his wife was having, about the unsettling feeling that something evil had entered their home. Hwa-rim listened carefully, her eyes always on the baby. The air felt heavy, thick with a scary feeling. She knew she was facing something old, something powerful, something evil. "Graves call," Hwa-rim murmured, her voice barely a whisper. Bong-gil's eyes went wide with fear. He knew the stories. Graves' call wasn't just a curse, it was a promise of death. A death sentence passed down through many generations, killing the firstborn sons. The curse, Hwa-rim explained, was tied to the land. Long ago, the An family had become rich through lies and tricks. They had taken the land from its real owners, a peaceful group of people who worshipped nature spirits. As they died, the clan had cursed the Ans. Their revenge was Graves' call. An evil spirit tied to the land would forever haunt the family. Every firstborn son would be its target, their life slowly drained away. This would go on until the wrong was made right. Mr. An listened, his face pale. He knew about his ancestors' past, the bad things they had done. He had always thought the stories were just silly tales. Now, looking at his dying son, he had to face the truth. His family was cursed. They had to hurry. Time was of the essence, and every second counted. The forest was thick with mist, making it difficult to see more than a few feet ahead. The urgency in their steps was palpable, driven by the knowledge that the curse was spreading faster than they had anticipated. Each rustle of leaves and snap of twigs underfoot seemed to echo the ticking clock in their minds. To fight the curse, Hwa-rim knew she needed help. She couldn't do it alone. The ancient texts and artifacts surrounding her were filled with knowledge, but they were not enough. She needed people, experts who could bring their unique skills to the table. The weight of responsibility was heavy on her shoulders, but she was determined to find a way. Graves' call was a powerful enemy, and she needed to be ready. The dark clouds that loomed over the forest and the eerie atmosphere of the village were constant reminders of the danger they faced. The curse was not just a threat. It was a living, breathing entity that sought to consume everything in its path. Hwa-rim steeled herself for the battle ahead. She sent Bong-gil to the village to bring back two people. Kim Sang-deok, the famous Feng Shui master, and Yeong-geun, the town mortician, a man rumored to be able to talk to the dead. Bong-gil rode with urgency, knowing that their mission depended on these two individuals. The village was quiet, almost too quiet, as he knocked on their doors, hoping they would agree to help. Kim Sang-deok was known far and wide for his expertise in Feng Shui. His ability to read the energies of a place and manipulate them was unparalleled. Yeong-geun, on the other hand, was a man shrouded in mystery. His connection to the dead was both feared and respected. Together they formed a formidable team, each bringing their own strengths to the fight against the curse. Bong-gil returned with them both. The journey back through the foggy village was tense, but there was a sense of hope now. They arrived at the old house in twilight, the setting sun casting long shadows that seemed to dance with the spirits of the past. The house, once a place of warmth and family, now stood as a battleground for their fight against the curse. Sang-deok, a wise old man with sharp eyes, looked at the house with a skeptical frown. He had heard the rumors of the curse, but he didn't believe them. His skepticism was rooted in years of experience and a deep understanding of the natural and supernatural worlds. Yet, as he examined the house, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. He had heard the rumors of the curse, but he didn't believe them. The stories told in the tavern were often exaggerated, filled with fear and superstition. But this time, there was something different. The air was thick with a sense of dread, and the usual bravado of the villagers was replaced with genuine fear. Sang-deok couldn't ignore the signs any longer, yet as he walked inside, he felt a chill. The temperature seemed to drop, and the shadows in the room seemed to move of their own accord. It was as if the house itself was alive, watching and waiting. Sang-deok's skepticism began to waver, replaced by a growing sense of unease. He knew they were dealing with something far more dangerous than he had initially thought. The air felt dark and sinister, sending shivers down his spine. Every creak of the floorboards, every whisper of the wind seemed to carry a message of doom. The house was a place of power, and that power was not benevolent. Sang-deok steeled himself, knowing that they had to face whatever was lurking in the shadows. Yeong-geun, a thin man with a sad face, seemed unaffected by the scary atmosphere. His connection to the dead had given him a unique perspective on life and death. The eerie surroundings that unsettled others were familiar to him. He moved through the house with a calm demeanor, his eyes scanning the shadows for signs of the spirits he could communicate with. His eyes, deep and full of knowing sadness, seemed to see more than most people. He had witnessed the suffering of the dead and the living, and it had left a mark on him, but it also gave him strength. Yeong-geun's calm demeanor was a reassuring presence in the spooky setting. He was ready to face whatever came their way, armed with his knowledge and his connection to the spirit world. He seemed calm and capable, a reassuring presence in the face of the unknown. Hwa-rim gathered her team. They were an unusual group, brought together by this situation and a shared goal to break the curse and save the An family from a terrible fate. The candlelight flickered as they strategized, their faces set with determination. Each member of the team brought their own unique skills and perspectives, creating a synergy that gave them hope. They were an unusual group, brought together by this situation and a shared goal to break the curse and save the An family from a terrible fate. The bond they formed in those moments of planning and preparation was strong. They stood resolute in front of the old house, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Together, they would fight the curse and protect the An family, no matter the cost. The house felt different now, heavier. The air was thick with an unspoken tension, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. Every creak of the floorboards seemed louder, more ominous, echoing through the empty halls like a warning. Sang-deok, even though he didn't believe it at first, felt it too. His skepticism was slowly being eroded by the palpable sense of dread that hung in the air. He could feel the weight of unseen eyes watching him, the hairs on the back of his neck standing on end. As he did his geomancy, his face became serious. The tools of his trade, once comforting in their familiarity, now seemed inadequate against the malevolent force he sensed. His hands trembled slightly as he traced the ancient symbols, each stroke feeling like a desperate plea for protection. "The energy here is bad," he announced, his voice grave. The words hung in the air, heavy with the weight of their implications. "This place is tainted, corrupted by something dark and powerful. Something powerful is feeding on this land." His eyes darted around the room, as if expecting the shadows to come alive at any moment. "It's been growing stronger, feeding on the fear and despair of those who lived here." He pointed to a hidden room under the house. "The source is down there," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. The others exchanged uneasy glances, the fear in their eyes mirroring his own. "The source is down there." The words echoed in their minds as they stared at the concealed entrance. The thought of descending into the unknown filled them with dread, but they knew they had no choice. Feeling scared, they went down into the darkness. Each step felt like a journey into the abyss, the darkness swallowing them whole. The air grew colder with each step, a chill that seemed to seep into their very bones. The air grew colder, the only sound their own breathing. Their breaths came out in visible puffs, the cold biting at their skin. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the occasional drip of water echoing through the darkness. The room was small, dusty, and full of old forgotten things. Cobwebs hung from the ceiling, and the air was thick with the scent of decay. It was as if time had forgotten this place, leaving it to rot in the darkness. In the middle was a stone stand, and on it was a wooden chest wrapped with iron chains. The chest seemed to pulse with a dark energy, the chains rattling slightly as if something inside was trying to break free. As Yeong-geun went near the chest, a terrifying scream filled the air. It was a sound that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere, a cry of pure agony that sent shivers down their spines. A huge snake, its scales as black as night, its head shaped like a human's, jumped from the shadows. Its eyes glowed with a malevolent intelligence, and its mouth opened in a silent hiss, revealing fangs as long as daggers. Bong-gil yelled, but before anyone could move, Hwa-rim acted quickly. Her instincts took over, and she moved with a speed and precision that left the others in awe. Her hand shot out, a flash of silver in the dim light. The blade struck true, slicing through the air with a deadly grace. The snake recoiled, its body thrashing wildly as it tried to escape the pain. The snake thrashed wildly, its human-like face twisted in a silent scream before falling to the ground, still twitching. The room seemed to hold its breath, the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. Lying next to it, cut clean off, was its head. The sight was both horrifying and strangely satisfying, a testament to Hwa-rim's skill and bravery. Hwa-rim stood over the creature, her face grim. She knew that this was only the beginning, that the true battle was yet to come. "We are too late," she whispered. "The curse, it's loose." Her words sent a chill through the group, the realization of their predicament sinking in. They had unleashed something far more dangerous than they had anticipated, and now they had to find a way to stop it before it was too late. The severed snake head seemed to pulse with an evil energy. "It was a guard," Hwa-rim explained, her voice filled with worry. "Bound to hold back the real curse." She pointed to the chest. "The serpent's death has set it free." "Who? What was it?" Bong-gil stammered, his face white. Yeong-geun, who hadn't spoken until now, finally said something. His voice, deep and echoing, filled the small room. "He was a warrior," he said, looking at the snake's dead eyes. "A powerful general, betrayed by the ancestors of this very house." The story came out, a dark and sad tale. The general, a loyal servant to his king, had been falsely accused of treason by the An family, who wanted his land. Imprisoned and tortured, he died, cursing the Ans and their children. The curse became Graves' call, killing every firstborn son. The serpent, a creature from the spirit world, was meant to hold back the general's anger, to keep the curse from spreading. Now with the serpent dead, the general's angry spirit was free.